So at the end of my study, my dissertation was focused around this digital product, which we're building for the UK market. And so I was able to like use that digital product as a basis for my application for the technician. So basically, I think in summary, that's been the journey from the time I started my business to how I got into the UK.
Mm. And how did you find out about the visa, and what made you apply for the visa?
Okay, yeah. So when I made the decision to move, it was because I personally identified a gap in the market that we were tending to at the time, which was in Nigeria. But on making the decision to move to the UK, I had to do a lot of research around existing visa routes. And I found out that it was a friend that recommended the Technician Exceptional Tier 1 Exceptional Talent Visa to me at the time, and that was in 2018. And so I did a lot of research on it, and I'd compared it with other existing visas to see which one would allow me pretty much achieve my goals in the UK. And it looked like my best bet, even though it also seemed a bit overwhelming going through the the criteria that would make me eligible at the time. So yeah, but that was how I found out about it, and I just took my time while studying, and built my documents over time, so that I applied eventually end of 2019.
Yeah, and you did look at the startup visa, because that's a new visa, even though it's like a graduate entrepreneur's visa, but they've changed the name to startup visa. Why did you did consider that? Why did you then decide for the global talent?
Yeah. So like I said, I looked at quite a number of visas, and I think they all have there were some with certain limitations, and I felt like wasn't going to help me completely achieve my goals, like I said. So it's the startup visa. I'm not sure I can even compare it. So even though it seemed like I was going within the startup space, but there was quite a number of limitations that made me not consider it, because I didn't apply for it at all. I mean, I had the opportunity as a member of the incubator, but it was a no-no for me. And I remember when I even put in my second application, they suggested to me, if it's not successful, perhaps you want to consider the startup visa. And I said to you, I've looked at what I'm hoping to get from moving to the UK, and startup visa would just give me, I would have to spend more time, because eventually I'm going to have to come back to the exceptional talent visa anyway.
Yeah.
That's what you want to achieve.
Yeah. So the startup visa kind of only gives you, like, I think 1 or 2 years.
You just start thinking like a stepping stone.
Yeah, stepping stone. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And so with the global talent, I know that you had a few hesitations. What was the main hesitation for you for the global talent, and then what pushed you to then apply?
Okay, it's basically, I think it was the criteria. They looked overwhelming, and I remember each time I constantly would look at them and I would feel like, okay, I'm eligible, but then it just feels like so many things they're asking for. And if you don't take your time to really look in between the lines, you almost feel like, you know what, this is too much. I'm not going to go through with it. So I think those were the hesitations for me, was, do I really have what it takes? Even though it feels like I tick a lot of the boxes, some of the boxes, and I think the second thing as well was, I think basically it was just the criteria that I put forward. And I think the fact that it seems a little bit more straightforward when you're applying through the technical route. But when you're going the business route, it's a little bit more complicated, because you're not sure what exactly the expectation is. And so it makes it a little bit tricky when applying,
Yeah. And so we didn't say this before, but Mofoluke, you did try and apply the first time round, but you were unsuccessful. And then you applied the second time around and you were successful. Can you tell us the difference
Yeah.
in your two applications, particularly around the criteria? Because when I saw your first application, you picked some criteria, but then we restructured and resubmitted. Can you let people
Yeah,
know
so
about that?
what I did before applying was I spoke to I have a couple of friends that have gone the same route, and well, most of them went through the technical route. So the advice they would give is just submit as many documents as you can, and they'll tell you if you whatever you qualify for, just take it. So I looked at the criteria and it looked like you have a bit of this, you have a bit of this, you have a bit of this. So rather than picking one mandatory and the other qualifying criteria, I just I felt like I could fit. I had something that fit into a little bit of everything, and yeah, so that was what I did with the first application. So it felt a little bit scattered, in terms. The strategy behind it wasn't well thought out. And I think the first one I applied for the talent and not the promise. And that's because I felt I had up to 10 years experience in business. However, the second one, I applied for the promise because I considered the aspect of my business that had gone the digital route was only in 2016, and 2016 to 2019 was actually. So the difference basically was the routes that I picked, and then the second application was a little bit more tailored. There was a bit more strategy around my choice of criteria at that point.
Yeah, and I just had a look back actually at your original document, and this is what I tell a lot of my clients as well, is with the innovation criteria, in the technician guidelines, it says that you can put your employment contract and those types of things in as pieces of evidence. But employment contracts don't usually provide enough information about your innovation. We worked really hard on your innovation, especially under business skills.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about what we did do in your innovation documents? Because that was the really tricky part for you.
Yeah. So that was a basic difference in the two applications eventually, was being able to pull out two examples of innovation within one document, which that shows that I worked on stuff that were innovative. That was quite challenging. But at the same time, I just finished a master's in innovation. So it gave me a little bit of insight as to what innovation actually was. And sometimes, when you look at what the criteria is, you kind of just feel like, no. I don't have what this takes and all of that. But basically it was being able to see how we came up with something new within the space of my own business and the project I'd done in the UK with the digital furnishing product was how did something new, useful come out of this? And so it was quite challenging, especially, I'm not even sure, but I know that it was difficult. We had to do that in 2 weeks, come up with 2 documents that literally showed the impact of innovation and what was even innovative about what in both instances. And that would be my business in Nigeria and the product I was trying to develop in the UK.
Yeah. So it was more around the strategy of your product, how you decided to come up with that strategy and to prove it. And that was the hardest bit about it. And then, explaining why it was innovative, because I think a lot of my clients as well, they don't know what to put in that. And it's what is the innovation, why is it innovative, and how is it innovative?
And what's the impact?
And what's the impact? Definitely. Yeah. So I think it took a while to do, but you got there in the end, which is great. Also, your awards. I know that the first application that you submitted, you didn't include many of your awards, and then you decided to put it in the second one when I realized that these things were missing under either impact or potential leadership.
Yeah.
So why did you?
So I would say that might just, I don't know, maybe it's I think that might just been a personal thing. Like, I'm not sure if I've heard it happens to a lot of women, that, the whole imposter syndrome. You just have these things and you think they're not good enough, or who wants to hear about an innovation award you got, some couple years ago, that was this in Nigeria, that was this. And so
Yeah.
I didn't really talk about a lot of those things. And I mean, I literally also, I've spoken to someone recently who said that, why are these things hidden within your CV? They show the journey that you have walked and
Yeah.
about them more. And so the thing with technician is they just really want, I think they just really want to really know who you are. And the way they can get to connect with you is seeing this aspect of yourself. So the little things you think they're not good enough, they have a way of saying, oh, this person has given their time to mentoring, they've given their time to coaching, this is where they've been recognized, this is what their work as, how their work has also been recognized. Because I remember right after I submitted the first application, we got an email from the office back in Nigeria for a nomination for an award a day after I submitted, and I just was like, "What?" And they actually said, "Oh, we're nominating you for this award because of your contributions to technology." And I was sharing the document with you, like, this came a day afterwards. So sometimes you just think those things are probably, not they don't add up, but they actually do. So it's important to look at everything that you have over a period and then see how you can connect the dots and create a story around it.
Correct. I think so. I think that was really good. I mean, Mofoluke and we only had 2 weeks to resubmit Mofoluke's application. She received her feedback, and her current visa in the UK was actually expiring. So the strategy was not to appeal because the feedback was it was clear. So instead of appealing, we spent 2 weeks right before Christmas restructuring and pulling an new application together so that Mofoluke can submit before her visa expired. And luckily we got it. But we did restructure it quite a bit in terms of, even your leadership. You had so much. Actually, what I did was I actually Googled you. And I found so many things more about you that you probably didn't even know. So that is a big lesson, and that is Google yourself, because you never know what you find, and every little thing helps and counts. But it's just, as you say, pick the relevant things in digital tech to help tell your story and your journey. Yeah. Now I want to talk about your experts before we take to questions as well. What we changed around your experts as well.
So on the aspects, so because I literally had thought about this for a long time, the first thing I started thinking about was, who are the experts that would know me enough within this space, which has to be the tech space, and talk about my journey, all my contributions. And they also have to be able to highlight theirs as well. So it's not just somebody who's wanting to talk about me, but the first paragraph really talks about them, and then the next one talks about me. So so I had to do a lot of thinking around that. I'd gotten quite a number of people that I'd spoken to, and they were willing to do like recommendation letters for me. But by the time we reviewed the first initial application, we realized that not all of them were strong enough. I think I even had more than required, so we had to take out some. I think we brought in another one. So I think that aspect was very crucial, is because technician is very, very, they have this strict criteria of who an expert should be, especially in the what their what's the word?
Is it the connection?
No. So what I'm trying to say is, they have criterias for the experts.
Yes. Yeah.
So they must be in the tech space. Their company must have up to certain number of employees. They themselves must be thought leaders within the space. And then they must be able to talk about you as either a thought leader or somebody who's aspiring to be within the tech space. So it's a bit of a two-way thing. And so if the person doesn't really know your journey, they probably can, talk about you the way they would expect. So I think that was a bit tricky for me. But then, yeah, at the end of the day, I had the right people to do the letters for me, and it came out really well.
Yeah, especially in 2 weeks. Yeah, it was really good. And I think having that connection to you, as well as connection to the digital tech space as well, especially if you've got a business skill, it was really hard, but we got there in the end about, finding your expert and asking them to write in a certain way to identify your achievements, and also what impact you make to the tech sector as well, and what your future plans were, because every expert has to say that. Yeah. And I think I remember you saying that experts, 3 different experts will give the assessor 3 different perspectives on who you are.
Yes, because it can't be the same story. You can't be the same person to those 3 people. So I remember one of the experts who happened to be a lady that had worked with women, helping young women learn how to code and all of that. And she had talked about how I'd mentored within our own community as well. And so that was kind of like a little bit different from every other person that talked about our financial gains, our turnover growth over time, and all of that. That was basically talking about mentoring and the impact of what I've done with women within the space.
Yeah. So that was nice. I think that 3rd expert that we chose just gave a nice rounded view about who you were. Yes, you're a businesswoman and you worked really hard in the e-com space as well, but then your contribution to the tech sector from the other expert, that was really nice, well-rounded. Okay, so let's take to the floor and have a look at some of the questions now. I can see a lot of them coming through. So I'll just go through. Ishan has asked some questions about, okay, this is just a general question. It's about beyond the change in the maximum number of visa acceptances, what are the big drivers for the massive spike in the number of applications in year to date? Do you think this is going to affect other applications this year? So the increase in applications is mainly due to promotion. So that's why they asked ambassadors to go out and talk to people and field any questions. The second reason is, more applicants are being accepted, so they tell each other within their own network. So, again, it's promotion and marketing. And also, I think there's going to be an even bigger spike come January because of Brexit. The Global Talent Visa is going to be opened up to people in the EU. So there will be more people applying, which means more competition. So Ishan's asking, Mofoluke and a lot of other applicants on your blog seem to have an active company which they started prior to applying. Do you think this affects the success rate in one direction or the other? Mofoluke, was Furnish a registered company?
In the UK, no. At the time of application, I'm not allowed to register a company.
Yeah. So Mofoluke was building something. So you don't actually have to have an active company. You talked about your future plans and you showed what steps you were going to take to get there.
So basically, if it depends on the type of visa you are on. For example, if you're on a startup visa, I guess you can have a registered business in the UK. And so when you're converting from startup visa to like the global talent visa, then you can have a business in the UK. However, for me at the time, I was on a tier 4 visa, which is a student visa, so I'm not able to register a business. But then I had a business idea in an incubator. So what I did with my time in the incubator was create a team, and we were trying to develop a product that we knew once we got the right visa, then we'll be able to register. But then we did everything else in terms of validate our idea, understand the markets and all of those things. Yeah. And those are actually viable things for your application as well, to be able to tell that, this idea has been validated through a proper user research, market research. And so basically that was what I spent my time in the incubator doing. And I was able to create a report around that as my innovation document for what we were going to now register once I go back into the UK after I got the visa.
Yeah, cool. What are the unique features that they look at for someone that is a business applicant but has technical skills such as data science? This person has 15 years international, multinational experience and acquiring new skills in data science. Would this qualify? Yeah, so I do have applicants or clients that have both business and technical, and that's wonderful. You just need to pick one, but then in all your documents and evidence, you would, explain that you have a technical background and it's moved on to business, or that you had a business background that's moved on to technical, but just make it really clear in your evidence.
Yeah, so that's what, can I add to that? I think there was a bit of, in the application, it asks you, are you going business, technical, and then it gave you options like design, So I think it would be better for you to pick. Data science is one of the technical skills I believe they're looking for. So it's, when you have two cores like that, I'll suggest you find the one you're stronger in, and push that foot forward so that you don't look like a little bit of not here and not there. That's what I think I go from. My own experience with my application is it gets a bit tricky if you're trying to be like, well, am I the user researcher? Am I just the business person? So where do I fit in? So it's always just best to put in where you've grown a lot more traction over the years, as against where I'm able to start in future.
Yeah. So where you are at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What type of references would they look at? Someone that is senior in IT digital positions carries more weight, or finance directors? Does it help having finance directors, someone from the UK tech sector that can reference? Does that help? Yeah, as we discussed with the experts, it depends on what they can say about you and if it's in the digital tech space, because it has to be someone who's an expert in your field. Okay, so and it has to be from 3 different people who can talk about you from 3 different perspectives. So it doesn't matter who carries more weight. It's all weighted equally. It's what they say about you.
Yeah, so it can actually be, I think I was also reluctant to have one of my mentors who was an accountant, but then he was also within the tech space, but then he was finance director of the company he was in, which was like a security and technology company. And I was reluctant that, did I need someone with that old technical, role, or the finance director? And, he was one of my strong experts. So I think what matters is where the person is within the sector himself and what they're willing to write about you. Yeah.
You mentioned there's a 50% success rate on approval of this visa. On what grounds do they reject? If you ticked all the boxes for required criteria, can they refuse you? Now, okay, so you've got 6 criteria. So there's 2 key criteria and 4 qualifying criteria. But you only need to meet 1 out of 2 key criteria and 2 out of the 4 qualifying criteria. In other words, 3 out of 6. If you select all of the criteria, you may not have enough documents to meet the criteria. So, which is what Mofoluke was saying before, is pick 3 criteria and just put forward the evidence against each of those 3 criteria you select. Otherwise, it's just going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And on what grounds do they reject? The ground is that you don't meet the criteria that you've selected. That's what they would do. And that's mainly what the advice is. Who would be the 3 experts for a graduate who has not worked in a company yet?
I would say maybe your supervisor, if you graduate, your supervisor from the uni,
Mhm.
or even anyone that, not necessarily a company, maybe you've done some volunteer work somewhere and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
As long as you can talk about your journey or your story.
Yeah, and this is where the remember when I said that this is more than a job application. Students are in a great position because they have time to volunteer and to do internships and to, you know, advance the digital tech sector. I've got loads of blog examples. So, for example, Taris, he was very immersed in the Leeds digital tech sector, and he was in the, you know, helping with startup festivals, and he was, you know, going in hackathons. He was doing all sorts, you know, he was just giving up his time to help advance the digital tech sector. So you don't have to work in a company. You can do all those other things and provide recommendation letters from those types of organizations and people that you've helped along the way.
Yeah. So I was gonna add something. I think I missed my train of thought. I'll try and remember. Oh, sorry about that. I'll try.
Okay. Okay. Right. There's loads of questions that have come through. Is it a good idea to talk about a specific validated business idea or an actively developed product at the time of application, even if it's not launched? It depends on which, if you're a promise or talent, and then it depends on which criteria you select. So if you're going under promise, it's the innovation criteria. You just need to show examples of innovation for promise. Whereas if you select talent, you need to show a proven track record of innovation. So that's a very big difference. So the proven track record of innovation means it's got to be validated. Whereas the examples of innovation is you just need to show that you've done some work. Yeah. And it depends.
Okay, yeah, I was going to recap on one of the reasons why I almost didn't apply was because I was on a student visa because I was studying, and I wasn't sure if that was a limitation. But apparently, after my application process, I realized that there were even people who had never run a business before, and right after their Tier 4 visa, they applied for the technician and they got it. So it doesn't really matter whether you have the job experience or you even have been in the whole startup space before, you have an existing business. As long as you can prove that you have what it takes to, that would definitely put you on a promise. But then, as long as you can prove you have what it takes, innovative strategies that can become a potential product, I'm sure they're willing to give you a chance. Yeah, that was what I was going to have.
Thank you. That's very insightful. With 3 references from key experts, should you also have a job reference from senior managers you worked for? Yeah, you can. They can be part of your 3 letters of recommendation, or you can provide letters of support to help you fulfill the criteria that you select. So if you were to select the significant impact, the qualifying criteria 1, you can ask your manager to talk about the impact, the technical or commercial impact that you made to the company. So it just depends where you put that person, either in the letter of recommendation for expert or to help you fulfill the criteria. Okay, we've got a number of Q&As. I'm just going to quickly go because we've not got much time left. Let's have a look, Mofoluke. There's lots of eligibility questions, so I'm just going to skip to continuous learning. How many hours, 20 hours need to be apart from the master's degree. So any courses that you've done that is over 20 hours is continuous learning. So you just show certifications, how many hours you did it for, and your results. So yeah, master's degree, you just show your master's because they know that that is 20 hours, but any courses that you do, you need to prove that it's more than 20 hours. Qualifying criteria 1, how to demonstrate they've gone beyond your day-to-day activities and demonstrate that you've made a significant impact. So that's not qualifying criteria 1. That can be proof of recognition outside of your day-to-day job. So that's key criteria 2. So you would, I mean, it depends what it is. I think, did you choose this one, Mofoluke?
The qualifying criteria one?
No, key criteria 2. No, you didn't, did you?
No.
No, I chose key criteria 2, and for my application, and I gave evidence such as, you know, speaking at conferences, mentoring, doing stuff that I don't get paid for, so like STEM ambassador type roles. So that's going outside of your day-to-day job and doing something for the community. Because qualifying criteria one,
I think I actually have that in as well.
I
That's
think,
talked about the mentoring
yeah,
stuff and the Cherry Blair Foundation and all of this stuff. Yeah.
I think that might have been a leadership one. So with qualifying criteria 1, that's about significant impact as an employee of a product-led digital technology company. Yeah. So that's not going beyond your day-to-day job. That's part of your job. Yeah. This person works for 2 companies, but technician needs 3 letters from different companies. How to solve this issue? Again, you know, it doesn't have to be people that you work for. It could be mentors that, you know, have helped you along the way in your journey. It could be, you know, an old professor that you've kept in contact with. It can be, you know, it can be other people. So it doesn't have to be your direct managers. Another question I always get asked is, you know, I don't want to ask my managers, because if I ask them to help me support with this visa or this endorsement, they know I want to leave. So that's another tricky situation that you have to kind of navigate yourself out of, because they could be a good expert, but then they have to say what your future plans are. And if you're going to leave the company and you don't want them to know that, then you can't use them unless you tell them. I'm just looking at some of the questions. Some of these are visa type questions, which I can't answer, so I can refer you to an immigration lawyer.
There's a question here I think you can address. It's currently I'm a tech consulting employee and working for a client, and I have a job offer letter from a client. So how do I show how to show technician that I'm a potential employee of a client, not consulting, as part of pre-criteria 1 in innovation, as my client can give any supporting document from them?
Yeah, that's the consulting, you're consulting, so you probably wouldn't be eligible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the eligibility criteria.
And there's a question I would also like you to address. Is the first one that talked about the person wants to find out. Sorry, I think we've gone all the way. Just give me a second. It says, I'm not the most technical person and always worked in the capacity of a technical project manager. Am I even eligible? My skill set listed in examples online. If yes, is this a business route definitely, or a technical route? I think it's more business, but I think you should address this.
Yeah. So if you're not a technical person, but you've always worked in that, so you're basically learning on the job. Someone asked about mastery of skills as well. So you can show that during your work, you've mastered skills, because, you know, as I said, the tech industry moves so fast that you're learning on the job. If you don't see your skill set listed, you would probably go more for the business route. As you know, it's really hard to pick. I think there was one that was product manager, but you're not a product manager or a project manager, so you'll have to just explain how you are eligible and what work you've done to make you highly skilled in that area. As I said, it's not an exhaustive list. I think it is a drop down. I can't remember, Mofoluke, is there a drop down when you apply for in the portal? You've turned off your microphone. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so it kind of like, there's a drop down that gives you options, design and all of those things. That's when you're a business person. So I think it's not a no. I think there are ways you can design your application to fit those criteria. It's just being able to identify those things and how you can map the story.
So you would pick the closest one, but then in your application, you would then yeah, talk about your skills. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to quickly go through. Is on-the-job learning considered to be part of continuous learning? So the new rules on the 4th of June, they've defined mastery of skills. And so yes, on the job, you just have to explain what that is and why and how you mastered those skills, definitely. So that's really good. New change on the 4th of June, because I know, you know, you can't go off and learn something if you're actually learning it on the job. How many number of certificates are needed for continuous learning? So 3 pieces of evidence against each criteria. So 3 is sufficient, but I think some clients, I think Mofoluke, what we did with yours maybe was put 2 certificates in one document. a lot of people do that. Just squeezing 2 into the one, because you've got 3 pages now, it's not 2 pages. There. So I think I've answered most questions, but if I haven't, I'll go back and email the ones that I've missed. But we are running out of time. But what I wanted to do was ask one last question for Mofoluke is what advice would you give people in potential applicants in applying for the endorsement?
Yeah, I think one advice I would have taken a little bit more seriously was to understand that the process would be challenging, especially if you're going on the business route, that's because it's a little bit difficult to put those things together within context that this is what the requirements are. I think it's pretty much easy for people in the digital space or the technical skills to do that. So having said that, don't be discouraged, you know, and believe in yourself. Put out your best foot. I think those documents, whatever it is, like in my own case where I didn't really, my first application didn't show a lot of awards and all of those things. I think it's important, especially when you have somebody else who's helping you, just print out everything and let a second eye take a look, and perhaps it would help you see what you're not seeing. And sometimes, honestly, I think when somebody else who's not in it have a look. I mean, when I decided to work with Michelle, there were so many things I wasn't paying attention to. And I remember a lot of other people that gotten it that would see my application and feel like, oh, wow, I think you qualify. And I still questioned my eligibility on most of those things. Was if you have somebody who's a professional who can help you walk through it, put everything forward, don't take anything out, don't think it's not good enough. Allow somebody else, you know, give you that second opinion, and just trust the process. And I believe the best will come through, honestly. It's just don't be afraid.
You were very good, Mofoluke. You know, when you made the decision to resubmit, there was no turning back. We just went, right, let's do it in 2 weeks.
I wanted it done in 5 days.
Yeah, Mofoluke said, Michelle, I want it done in 5 days. And I said, okay. But we needed the 2 weeks. But I don't think you slept during that time. I don't think I slept during that time.
So, but another thing as well is for people who don't get it the first time. I mean, if I knew this, maybe I wouldn't have panicked as much as I did. Because when you don't get it the first times, it's part of a strategy to actually reapply. And that's because the feedback I got from technician allowed me just focus on one aspect. Because it was one thing that I could pick out from my initial application, and it was easy for me to say, you know what, if I adjusted this thing, and that was why we knew that the innovation piece was missing. If I adjusted this part, would be able to. But if I just felt like, oh, you didn't get it the first time, that's the end, then I wouldn't have gotten it the second time. And I was sometimes that there were some blogs I came across, and I seen people who, you know, they came back to them on a Friday, they resubmitted on Monday, and they were successful, you know. And it shows, and a lot of people would just ask them, well, what did you do differently in 48 hours? You know, the feedback is what they did differently, because this gives you real insight from technician that you can actually work on, can iterate your application based on this feedback. So it's tangible what you get from the first application. So I just kind of like tell people, don't be discouraged by the fact that you weren't successful. I know people now who consider the first application as part of the strategy to getting the visa anyway. So that, I mean, let me see where I am with the first one. Then the feedback that comes back, I'll use it to build something more solid for my application. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that was really good. You embraced that. I think that was the main thing, was embracing that feedback and just going again. And we knew where we were headed because we had that feedback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are a little bit over time, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to get Mofoluke's last bit of advice. I did write a blog on Mofoluke, and I will update that according to our discussion today. But I will try and answer to everyone separately in an email. My office hours are on Monday, but everything will be in the newsletter tomorrow. So don't worry, I will email you and set up a time with you so I can discuss your cases. But I think I'm going to have to leave it there. But don't worry, I'll get back to you. And thank you so much, Mofoluke. Congratulations again. And wish you all the best. And I know that we'll touch base again when you come back to the UK and start your new life as a global talent visa recipient. Thanks, guys. I'm going to say bye.